Long ago, in a quiet village called Igbekel, people lived simple lives. The sun rose over red soil, children played near the river, and every evening the smell of soup and roasted yam filled the air. The villagers were close. They helped each other, they laughed together. But they also gossiped, and no one gossiped more than Mama Yu. Mama Yu was a round old woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. Something happened in the village, she would know it before the chickens woke up. Some said she had ears on every wall. Others said she made up half the stories. But Mama Yu didn't care. She liked to talk, and people listened even when they rolled their eyes. She lived in a small mud hut near the edge of the village, with 5 goats, a few chickens, and one long bench where she sat to talk all day. One night when the wind was quiet and the stars were bright, Mama Yu sat on her bench, complaining to herself. "The chief is greedy," she said, fanning her face. "He eats all the best yams and gives the rest to dogs." She shook her head and went to bed. But just as the clock struck midnight, something strange happened. A voice came from the goat pen. "I'm tired of stealing the chief's yams in secret." It said. Mama Yu sat up fast, her eyes open wide. "Who said that?" she asked a dark. The voice came again. "I said, I'm tired of stealing the chief's yams. I don't even like yams." She grabbed her lantern and ran outside. Her goats stood in the pen, chewing slowly. She looked around. No people, just goats. She held the lantern high. The biggest goat, the brown one with the white face, looked straight at her. "Perry Wall stole yams last month and blamed me," it said. "Mama, you dropped the lantern." It hit the ground and rolled. Her mouth hung open. "A goat," she whispered. "A talking goat." She ran back into her hut, locked the door, and didn't sleep a wink. By morning, the whole village had heard. They say her goat talks. Talks like a person, like a spirit. Villagers gathered outside Mama Yu's compound. Children climbed trees to see over the walls. Even the elders came with their walking sticks. Mama Yu stood outside shaking. She pointed at the goat. "Talk," she whispered. The goat lifted its head and bleated loud. "Chica's father, the chief, has a wife in the next village. They've been together for years." The crowd gasped. "Chica," someone whispered. "That quiet girl?" "Yes," someone else said. The chief never spoke of another wife. The goat continued chewing. Chica stood behind the crowd, her face blank. She had always been quiet. No one knew much about her, but now all eyes turned to her. That same afternoon, more people came. The crowd grew bigger. The goat spoke again. "Arosa, the healer, mixes her herbs with old leaves. She's been lying to people for years." Arosa jumped. "It's a lie," she shouted. But her voice shook. Mothers looked at each other. Some stepped away from Arosa. The healer's shop, once full of trust, now stood empty. That evening, the elders called a meeting under the big baobab tree. Flames danced in a circle. Faces were tense. Palawal, the man the goat accused first, stood with clenched fists. "We must kill the goat," he shouted. "It's disturbing the peace." Some elders nodded. Others looked unsure. The priest stood up slowly. "We don't know what this goat is. It may be a sign or a curse, but killing it may bring worse trouble." Mama Yu stepped forward. Her voice was softer than usual. "It only speaks truth," she said. "I never asked it to. But I cannot deny what it says." No one spoke for a while. Then, as if to remind them, the goat bleated once more from the shadows. The next morning, the air in Igbekel was heavy. People walked quickly. Some closed their windows. Some covered their goat pens, as if afraid their goats might start talking to Dot. Then came another voice from the goat. "The chief borrowed gold from the king in the next kingdom. He never paid it back. The whole village will suffer if the king finds out." The words hit like a hammer. People gasped. Some fell to their knees. The chief, who had come to see for himself, stood like a tree rooted to the ground. His eyes showed. Fear, is it true? Someone asked softly. He said nothing. A woman wailed. A man threw his hat to the ground. The elders returned to the baobab. This time they argued louder. We must end this, Palawel said again. Do we kill the goat? Another asked. No, said the priest. We must understand why this is happening. That's when Chica stepped forward, the quiet girl, the chief's daughter, the one with long eyes and quiet steps. I know how to stop the goat. She said. The elders turned. You, Palawel said with a sneer. You're just a girl. But the priest raised his hand. Speak, child. Chica looked around. The goat only talks when someone hides a secret. If you want it to stop, you must stop lying. The people looked at one another. It says what we all already know, Chica said. We just never had the courage to say it. The elders fell silent. Even Mama, you nodded slowly. Then the goat bleated again. I've seen it all. The next chief will be a woman. Shock spread like fire through dry grass. A woman. Someone whispered. Palawal's jaw dropped. The chief looked away. Chica stood still, her voice calm. I trained the goat, she said. It's not magic. It's truth. I taught it everything I heard, everything people said in secret. Everything. No one had the heart to say out loud. People gasped. Some stepped back. Some looked at her with fear. Some with wonder. You trained it. The priest asked. I wanted you to see, Chica said. To see what happens when we let lies rule our lives. The goat bleated again. But this time, it didn't say anything. Silence fell. The villagers waited. No more secrets. For now, but everyone knew Igbekel was not the same anymore. And Chica, she was not just the quiet girl anymore. She had become something more. Someone dangerous, someone powerful. Someone who knew the truth, and the truth was just beginning to rise. The next day, the sun rose slowly over Igbekel, but the light did not bring peace. The village felt different. The silence in the air was heavy, like smoke after a fire. People whispered. Children played less. Women walked quickly. Men looked over their shoulders. The goat had not spoken since Chica's words. But that silence brought no comfort. Everyone knew the goat was watching. Everyone feared it might speak again in the chief's house. The air was cold. The chief had not left his compound since the goat revealed his debt to the neighboring king. His servants moved quietly. His wives kept to themselves. Even the birds in the trees near his hut did not sing outside. Mama Yu sat on her bench with her mouth closed for once. She stared at her goat pen, shaking her head slowly. I have spoken much in my life, she muttered. But never like that goat. The villagers waited, and the goat waited too. Then, just after noon, the goat lifted its head again. Its voice was strong, louder than before. The chief promised land to the people, but he gave it to his cousin in secret. He broke his oath. Gasps came from every corner. Even those who had begun to think the goat might be done now realized it was not finished at the elder's house. The baobab tree stood tall, but even its shadow felt smaller that day. The elders sat in a circle, some with hands on their heads. We cannot keep going like this, Palawal shouted. This goat is destroying us. Not the goat, said the priest, his eyes dark. It's the truth. And we have lived too long with lies. But what do we do? Another elder asked. Our people are afraid. The chief is weak. Even the healers are doubted. Kika walked into the circle, calm and steady. You must stop trying to silence the goat, she said. The goat is not the curse. The goat is the cure. It only says what you already know. It's your shame. That makes it loud. Some elders nodded. Others frowned. What are you trying to do, girl? Palawal asked. I want to fix what is broken, Chica answered. I want the truth to live in this village, not hide. But the village is falling apart, someone shouted. No, Chica said softly. The village is waking up. Evening, the villagers gathered at the square. The air was thick. All eyes were on the goat standing on the platform beside Chica. The crowd was silent. Waiting. Chica raised her hand. Before the goat speaks again, she said, I must say something. She looked at the faces old and young, strong and weak. I was the one who trained the goat. I did not teach it magic. I only taught it what I heard, what people whispered in the corners, what was hidden in shadows. A loud gasp moved through the crowd like wind. I did not do it to shame you, she continued. I did it to save you. Save us, someone called. From what? From your own lies, Chica answered. From secrets that poison the ground. From the weight you carry on your hearts. The goat bleated once. Everyone jumped out, then it spoke again. A woman in the crowd beats her daughter in the dark, then sings sweet songs in the day. Her name is Fidea. A woman screamed and ran from the crowd, hiding her face. Another man in the corner steals from the offering bowl in the shrine. The goat said, he tells people he is holy, but his hands are dirty. Gasps turned into murmurs. Some people wept. Others looked around, afraid their names might come next. The chief stepped forward then, slow and heavy, like a man walking toward punishment. He looked at Chica. You trained the goat, he said. You destroyed my name. Chica looked back, her voice calm. No, she said. You destroyed it yourself years ago when you chose to hide. I only made the mirror speak. The chief bowed his head. What now? Chica turned to the crowd. It's time to choose. Kill the goat and return to silence, or let the truth live and begin again. The elders whispered. Some villagers cried, but one by one, heads began to nod. An old woman stepped forward. I was once a liar, she said. I told my sister her child died in birth. I gave the baby away because I was jealous. The truth burns me now, but I want to heal. A young boy stepped out next. I took coins from my uncle's box. I blamed my friend. He was beaten because of me. A man in the crowd shouted, we must all speak now. Let no secrets live in the dark. And so they did. That night the people of Igbekel spoke truth after truth. One by one the weight fell from their shoulders. People wept, people hugged, people forgave, and the goat. It bleated once more, but this time it said nothing. Silence. True. Silence. Not fear, not secrets, just peace. The next morning the sun rose brighter than ever. The trees seemed greener. The river flowed smooth. Chica stood in the village square. The goat stood beside her. The priest walked up to her. Child, he said, you have done what no one else could. Chica smiled. The goat is no longer needed, she said. We now have ears and courage. The priest nodded. Plawal stood up, looking ashamed. You said the next chief will be a woman, he said. Is that true? The goat lifted its head. It bleated once, then silence again. The villagers turned to Chica. They did not speak, but their eyes were clear. That evening, the elders made a decision. They called all the villagers. They stood under the baobab tree. The beast raised his staff. From today, he said, Igbekel will have a new chief, a leader of truth, a leader of peace, a leader of courage. He turned to Chica. You have shown wisdom. You have shown heart. Will you lead us? Chica stepped forward. Her eyes were steady. I will lead, she said, but not with fear, only with truth. Cheers filled the air. Drums began to beat. Old and young danced together. Tears fell. But this time they were happy tears. And the goat. It walked quietly to Mama Yu's pen. It lay down and closed its eyes. Its work was done. Years later, the story of the talking goat was told to children under the mango trees. It became legend. People laughed, they cried, they remembered. And Chief Chica, she ruled with wisdom, with listening ears and strong hands. She reminded people every day, truth is not the enemy. Hiding it is. Under her rule, Igbekal grew strong. The people no longer whispered. They spoke openly. And the village never feared the truth again. The talking goat never spoke again. It didn't need to. The people had finally found their voice.